Welcome to Living from the Heart. I am your host, Tina Thrussell, also known as Woman Who Dances with Light. I am a spiritual healer, a Nia teacher, a mindfulness trainer. I'm a facilitator of workshops, seminars, and retreats. I host women's circles. I'm a nature guide. The list goes on and on. I'm the co-founder of Best You Can Be. But most importantly, and what ties all of that together, is that I am a messenger of the Shindao, the way of the heart. In Japanese, Shin means heart, and Dao is the way. So the way of the heart is living with love, kindness, and compassion. And my guest today certainly knows about that. I met Bob Ellwood a couple of years ago. We are both members of the Unity of Calgary spiritual community. And we've worked side by side, everything from setting up chairs to being part of the role of hosting services, reading the daily word. And I've come to watch Bob's growth, his involvement in this spiritual path. And I certainly see this beautiful man who has been an amazing woodworker and a laborer for most of his life. And so a lot of people might go, well, what does he know? He's just your common laborer, that's just Joe Average. But there's nothing average about this man. Anyone who lives from their heart to the extent that he does, who really walks their talk the way Bob does, certainly has a place on the Living from the Heart show. And we are celebrating today is the 50th show. Woo-hoo. Yeah, woo-hoo. That's pretty exciting to think that I've had that many amazing people, because I've not yet had the same guest on twice. So I've had the opportunity to have conversations with some pretty phenomenal people who, most of them, didn't start on a spiritual track. It's not like they were raised in a family that said, oh, life is all love and light and we want to live from our heart. And no. So it's a journey to come to that place, right?
It is.
So tell us a little bit about your journey, Bob. How did you come to this place of being so much more consciously aware of the fact that we create our world with our thinking, and so we want to be conscious of our thinking?
Well, it started because I was very unhappy. I did not like this Bob that was sitting in this skin. So I did not like the company I kept when I was alone. And it got harder and harder. And I thought, something's not right here. It's got to be something better than this. And so about 25 years ago, I started searching for the meaning of Bob and the meaning of Bob's life. But for most of it, I spent looking out there in the world for the answers. Read tons of books, did every workshop. I figured I spent about $100,000 on my spiritual education, my awakening process over that 25 years. And it's only been in the last 5 years, say, that I had turned inward. I'd done a lot of inner work, inner child work, learning how to love myself. That was really important. And then just a couple of years ago, I really committed that I wasn't going to let what was going on in the outer world impact me anymore. I was just going to trust that, knowing within. And it was scary. And for about 6 weeks, I lived in a lot of fear. And the universe just kept giving me signs, and synchronicities would start flowing in saying, yeah, this is it, Bob, this is the path. And it's just been a joy ever since. I've moved from my head to my heart. That was the major commitment. When, okay, I'm not gonna make decisions from my head anymore. I'm gonna trust the universe to show me what to do next.
That's beautiful.
And it's been magical ever since.
I have found that same experience. Once I surrendered to listening to my heart, then the flow, the ease, the grace, all of that began to happen in my life. And and I understand what you're saying about, oh, it's scary. It's really scary. All we know is our thinking, right? We're raised with that logical, analytical,
Yeah.
assess, think your way through everything, and to stop thinking your way through everything and just trust that what you need, what you desire for your life, as long as you remain focused on what you desire for your life, will somehow make its way. That when Neil and I became passion test facilitators, we took the passion test program with Chris and Janet Atwood. And oh, sorry, Janet Bray Atwood. She likes that hyphenation in her name. And when we took that course, that was the first, I would say, real serious exposure we had to the concept that you have to let go of the how. How is this going to happen?
Yes.
You just have to be clear about what it is you want to have happen, and then let go of how. Because that greater power that goes by a lot of different names, right? I mean, God, universe, great spirit, the creator, Muhammad,
Source.
yeah, yeah, well, Allah, whatever name, right? That source will guide us. It's like this quiet little inner voice that speaks to our heart. And our brain, Neil always says, our brain will scream, but our heart whispers. So you have to get quiet enough to listen to that heart,
Exactly.
And I know that you've had that experience very
Yeah.
much, right?
Yeah. And that was the terror, when they letting go of the how, because my mind would, how's this going to work? I gave my notice in a house I'd been living in for 11 years. I had no vehicle. I had no new place to live or anything. This was back in 2018. And I said, all right, I'm committing. I'm going to trust the universe to make this happen. And every day I would wake up in terror thinking, I don't even have a vehicle. How am I going to get all my stuff? How am I going to move all my stuff? I got 11 years of stuff. What am I going to do with it? I got to find a place. I got to do this. I got to do that. And the greatest thing was this power, this force. You got to take action. I got to do something. And every morning I'd wake up and I'd be in that. It was like terror, deep anxiety, and panic attacks. And every time I go, Bob, get out of your head. And I go out on my deck and I'd sit down and say, just come back to now. Just come back to the present. Don't do anything in this state. And I did that again. And that was that 6 weeks of fear and terror that I had to go through and to trust. And boom, the universe, it happened. The very first week after I gave my notice, I had a month to find a new place and move. And the first weekend I said, okay, at Unity, I'm just going to put it out there. Practically the very first person I talked to was a person who I hadn't seen in years. And oh, Larry, how's it going? Good, good. What are you up to? Blah, blah. And well, what are you up to? Oh, I gave my notice, so I'm looking for a place. So if you know anybody, oh, well, I might be looking for someone. I'm thinking of renting out one of the rooms in my house. Oh, really? Boom.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect.
And everything just happened. The universe just gave me, I was a woodworker, and I'd bring home a pile of wood every day from work. And imagine 10 years of that. I had a stack of wood literally 8 feet wide, 20 feet long, and 6 feet high, with tarps and everything. Just all these little bundles of wood that I was going to make my dreams come true with, which I never did. What am I going to do with all this wood? Oh my God, I can't possibly. And that was a big scream in my head. Bob, you got to do something about the wood. But every day I'd come and sit on the deck and feel the fear, breathe, Bob, come back. And I did that. And then, David Hawkins?
Yeah.
Well, he wrote a book called Letting Go.
Right.
And in that book, he says, if there's anything you need to let go of in your life, he says, sit with it and really feel into it. So one morning I thought, I'm going to do that. And I sat and I could see this big pile of wood out there. And what does that pile of wood mean, to you, to me? And so I sat with it, and I just started bawling. I just started bawling because it was my dream. And what I realized when I really just was there with it, all how I betrayed myself, because I hadn't, it's been, it was 11 years that I did not follow my dream. I did not honor my own truth, and I did nothing with it. And so I just felt this betrayal and grief and loss, and because letting go of the wood was letting go of that dream. And all day it was, I cry and breathe, come back into the present, and it's okay, and love myself while I was crying and feeling sorry for myself and feeling betrayed and all of that, and loving myself at the same time. Well, by the end of the day, I felt pretty good. You wouldn't think so, right? But I felt better.
Yeah.
And the very next morning, I got up. My brother, with Dale, was living there at the time, and I got up in the morning and I went out, and there's Dale with my neighbor Kim, who lived right across the fence, because where I was living, we didn't have a back alley. We just had a fence, and then it was the neighbor's yard behind that. And he'd been popping over every once in a while and chatting. And so he's sitting there talking to Dale, and he looks up at me and he says, "So Bob, you really wanting to get rid of all that wood?" I said, "Yep, I am." "Well, let's do it," he says. And he took it all. And we spent 3 days. I didn't even have a vehicle, right? So I was thinking, and I didn't have a lot of money. I had enough money to pay the rent. That was about it. And I thought, if I had to get like a dumpster in there or something, it was going to cost me hundreds and hundreds of dollars to move all this wood. Well, he had a pickup, and we started. I said, "Let's do it." And we just loaded up his truck, and he'd drive away, and we'd get the next load ready, and he'd come back, and he had friends. He was a firefighter. Volunteer firefighter, so he had lots of friends that loved woodworking and stuff, and he had a big fire pit that he was going to use a lot of this wood, chop it up and burn it in his fire pit. And 3 days, 3 solid days, we moved wood.
Wow.
And on the third day, I sat down, and it was all gone. Wow. And I thought, "Oh, thank you, universe."
Wow.
And I couldn't have dreamed of that outcome.
Exactly. That's the universe knows so much more than we do. Like, yeah, you would never imagine something like that could happen. And that's the gift of the letting go. When we stop trying to take control and make it happen the way we think it has to be, then miracles can happen. And, miracles happen every day. I mean, the things that we call miracles really aren't miracles. They're just letting go. We say just, it's not that easy. But when we do, it is that easy, right?
Yes.
Like, and so did you feel a bunch of remorse and regret once all that wood was gone, or was it just relief that was there?
It was huge relief.
Yeah.
Huge relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious. So how did you reconcile the fact that that represented your dream? So you'd let that go. So did you really let go of the dream, or did you just let go of it having to be the way you thought it would be?
That's a very good question. And I didn't let go of the dream. And in fact, what getting rid of all that wood did was created the space for me to step back into it. And like you said, from a new perspective.
Yeah.
And so all that wood, what happened was, I didn't know this at the time, but it's only in retrospect that I came to understand this, was that there was 10 years of pressure of having to do. And that was a big pile of wood. I was going to have to do all of that. I was going to have to use all that wood to make my dream happen.
Right.
And it just got harder and harder. And so I never stepped into it. But now that it's all gone, I'm still looking. I go, "Oh, look at that wood in that garbage bin over there. That looks like pretty nice wood. I could maybe do something with that." And now just a few little pieces, I actually can do something with that.
Beautiful, beautiful. That's just, what a great metaphor for all of life and how we can approach life, right? Just how much stuff. I mean, you as the viewer or the listener, if you're listening to the podcast, audio podcast after, where in your life are you holding on to something that's actually keeping you from getting that thing. That story about the tighter you hold your fist. Ooh, there's my fist. The tighter you hold your fist, the less you can let in. But if you let loose your grip, you create space. And if you open your hand and completely let go of what's there, there's all this space for something to fall into. And that fist metaphor is probably one of the easiest things to keep in your mind for what can I let go of to allow something else to come in a way that is even better than I could have imagined.
That's exactly what happened for me.
Yeah.
I let go, got rid of all the wood, got rid of most of my stuff, got rid of my books, which was a hard one.
Ooh, that's hard for a lot of people.
That was a hard one for me to let go of. I had a lot of books, and I love my books because I love to learn. But it was all up here, right? Not all of it. Eventually, some of it actually settled down into my heart, where I really got it, as a knowing, rather than a bunch of knowledge stuffed in my head. But letting all that go did create the space for something new to come in, and it did. I'm living in a new place now, and my landlady gave me the idea she asked for my help in doing some work around her place. I put in some laminate floors, did some painting, built some pony walls around some piping downstairs, things like that. She said, Bob, you could make a living with this. What? You could be a handyman. She was a cleaning lady, and she built her business by advertising in the dog parks because she had a dog and she loved dogs. And that's how she started her business 15 years before. And she says, Bob, you could do that, And I go, oh, well, I'll have to think about that one. And of course, right away, pretty much my mind's going, oh, no, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. But I said yes. So she says, here, Bob, like just a few days later, she comes down and, Bob, yeah, have a look at this. And she's got business cards made. Well, the template for a business card made out. And she's got some sheets with the big banners, handyman Bob with some tools on it and everything. And
oh, wow.
For flyers to put out in the dog parks with the plastic laminate over top. And she some business cards stapled to the bottom of it, and says, we could just put this out in the dog parks and maybe around the neighborhood. And I said, okay. And I was scared, but I didn't think about it. I just said, I'm trusting now, right? And I said yes. And that's what I'm doing now. It's been almost a year and a half, 2 years, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it. I couldn't have dreamed that up in a million years.
Yeah.
It never would have come to mind.
Yeah, isn't that awesome? I love that. I love to hear those stories. And if it was just you, then I'd say, well, there's nothing to it. That was just, people say, oh, that's just dumb luck or whatever. But I hear this kind of story over and over and over. So, when we surrender, when we let go, and just Monday this week, I was a speaker on the World Parliament of Spirituality. So, the World Parliament of Spirituality is happening on 6 continents, and they're pulling together thousands of speakers who are all sharing their ideas about spirituality, what that means, living consciously, bringing spirituality into governance, into interfaith unity. That was the area that I spoke in. Family wellness, that's the area that Neil spoke in. And there was this common denominator of everybody saying that we want to be more and more in a place of conscious awareness of what we're thinking, what we're saying, and what we're doing, and that we still have to take action. But what we want to do is take action that's guided from our heart.
Exactly.
Not action that our head says, well, you got to do this, you got to do this. That frantic energy just makes you spin your wheels and it gets you exhausted. Yeah. But if you sit and don't do anything for long enough to hear that quiet voice of your heart, then that quiet voice says, oh, do this. And if you take an action towards that, then I love this phrase, the universe conspires to assist you. And things start to fall into place. And there are these beautiful synchronicities, which some people call coincidences. But it's more than just a chance happenstance. If you believe in a higher power, is something that's kind of been guided your way. And so the divinity within us is that part of that greater energy source, love, whatever name you give that resides within us. And when we learn to tap into it and listen to it, then it starts to manifest amazing things in our lives.
Yeah. And it's effortless.
Yeah.
I don't have to do it. The universe will show me. And it has. I am a true believer now because I've lived it.
Yeah.
And it's happening again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. And again, I'm going to emphasize for the naysayers who say, oh, well, you can't be woo, airy fairy and just sit around and wait for God to take care of you. And that's not what we're saying.
That's right.
That's not what we're saying. So say it again. What we're saying is you need to be quiet and listen for the right thing to do and take action on that.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I was open. For example, my new job as a handyman, I was open for something new to happen. And I listened. And I don't know if you're familiar with human design, Tina?
Oh my gosh, do you know how many times somebody's brought up human design in the last 2 weeks?
Really?
Seriously.
Wow. Okay.
So synchronicity, messages coming. I need to investigate.
I would say check it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, in human design, I'm a generator, what they call a generator. And they say the generators have two sacred sounds. Uh-huh and uh-uh.
Ah.
Because generators aren't supposed to go out and initiate and create. They're supposed to sit and wait quietly and let the universe present things. And then as a generator, you go inside and say, well, is that a yes or is that a no?
Ah, okay.
So when Susan asked me if I wanted to be a handyman, I went in and, I was a bit scared, but I went into my heart. I didn't get into my head, would have talked me right out of it in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
What does this feel like? And it felt right. It was an aha.
Ah.
And so that's how my world is working now. The universe just, things come together, and then it's a matter of, is it a yes or is it a no? And it's just as important to hear the as it is to hear the aha. To be able to say no.
Yeah. Oh, you're so right. Right. I had a recent circumstance in my life where my head would have said, oh, you say yes. You've been waiting for this. You've been waiting for this for 2 years. You want to say yes. But when I listened to my heart, it was a definite no. It was such a surprise because I had taken all kinds of action steps to be prepared for the yes. And there it was. And it was like, son of a gun, it's a no. But I've come to that place of trusting. And I went, okay, I'm just going to trust that that's a no. And, the invitation to be part of the World Parliament on Spirituality came after saying no to that other thing. And it hit me somewhere in the middle of that 5-day conference that my saying no to the other thing, which was a very local, spiritually focused endeavor, was to make way for me to be more global, to step into a more global place in the work that I'm here to do. And I can speak about that with some confidence now. Whereas before it was just like, oh, I'm not worthy of that. I'm not good enough to do that. I'm just here on my little stage, right here
yeah.
in Calgary, Alberta,
this is
Canada.
Good enough.
Yeah. And no, there I was. I delivered as amazing a talk as any of those other hundreds of speakers that I was there with. And I don't say that from a place of ego. I say that from the fact that when there was a panelist discussion afterwards, there were people who commented, oh, well, it's like Tina said, la, 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 right? And so that was affirmation.
Exactly.
That what I was saying offered some value to what was being delivered in that conference. And I feel very excited. I feel like, wow, finally. For me, have you read Michael Stringer's The Surrender Experiment?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so
I loved it.
yeah, me too.
Very inspiring.
Yeah,
I found it
so inspiring. And so for those who haven't read it, I'm not going to give it away, but I'll say this. The man made a commitment at one point in his life. He had a wake-up moment where he went, huh, so who is this guy here in this skin? Because I just observed myself having a conversation with my uncle on the couch. But that was me. But it was like I was observing from outside. And so it sent him on this path of what exactly was that all about? And he decided to do the surrender experiment, and he would surrender and say yes to whatever the universe presented, no matter how illogical it seemed, no matter how much his brain said, no, you can't do that. He just kept saying yes. And what an amazing story his life turned out to be, right? Yeah. Oh my goodness. So I was inspired by that. I won't say I had the courage to step into it fully.
No, me neither. Not yet. Not yet.
But man, you made a huge step in that 6-week period, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's huge. Most people won't ever even do that. So I hope you do this now and then. And
oh, I do every day. Every day. I love myself because I think that is where it starts. Self-love is without that self-love, without that ability to love myself in that fear, I would have done what I've always done, is run away.
Yeah, that is so absolutely true. And that's what living from the heart is all about. It's about loving yourself, and that's what the Shindao, the whole philosophy of the Shindao says, that you have to start with loving yourself. You have to start with kindness and compassion for yourself. Because when you see yourself as this loving, beautiful child of the universe that has a right to every good thing that everyone could possibly have a right to, then you operate from this place of abundance.
Yes, exactly.
Right? The world is your oyster is that little phrase. And all those little cliches actually have such gems in them. The world is your oyster. Anything is possible. The only thing that limits you is your thinking.
That's exactly right.
Right? Yeah. So true. So it always thrills me to have people here on this show who really walk their talk, who've discovered this secret to living a fulfilling life, to listen to your heart, to surrender to that higher power, which really is the power within us.
Of course, it's always been there. It was always there within me. I just couldn't see it because I had so many judgments and criticisms about all the things I'd done and all the things I hadn't done. Yeah,
we all have those voices in our head. And the thing is, to thank them for being there, because they're there to try to keep you safe. They want to keep you small and comfortable because
exactly.
Well, you can't get hurt.
Nobody moves, nobody gets hurt, right?
Exactly. But nobody moves, nobody grows.
Exactly.
Nobody gets to experience life and to live it with the gusto, the deliciousness.
Yes.
Taste all the joy there is. And for me personally, I know that I carry a great amount of joy within me, and I just want to inspire that. I want everyone to get to feel that joy. I want everyone to know what it's like to have that everything is fabulous kind of feeling. And I'm not saying I'm there every minute of every day, people. I'm certainly not. That's my husband. He's lived with me for more than 35 years. He knows that I'm not like that every day. But to have those, even if they're just moments that expand into greater moments, that expand into half days and days, to have those experiences of joy in your life makes the life so worth living. It makes it juicy. It makes it like, I can't wait to wake up and see what today brings. Yeah.
And not having to make all the decisions about my life, having a faith in something bigger, it's like a huge weight is lifted, and I'm lighter. And so I'm more able to experience the little things as joyful and delightful, and feeling worthy of them. That's another big thing about self-love, is it allows you to feel worthy of receiving the love and the joy that everybody's giving me all the time, and they always have. I just wasn't able to receive it because I did not feel worthy of it. And by learning to love myself and feeling worthy, I am now able to receive those wonderful gifts, and they just happen more and more, and all the time, and they're effortless. I don't have to do anything to earn those gifts. They just come.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And that's going to give me a really good segue. I'm going to put on the screen here a little piece. So I offer Shindao sessions. So we do a little energy dance to bring you into your heart. It's a way for you to release your pain and your suffering, your anxiety, your grief, and allow that to be transmuted, to be shifted into relief and that joy that we were talking about earlier. So it's not that I do anything for you, as we were talking about, but what I do is I create space for you, and I become an open channel. I receive information and energy and resources, and I use sound and energy healing techniques, and sometimes I receive guided messages, and all of that combines to make a very unique experience that will help you feel lighter and calm and peaceful and relaxed and clear. It'll allow you to be more in your heart so that you can hear those guiding messages from that higher power. And for the listeners and the viewers to the Living from the Heart show, if you go to our website, bestyoucanbe.ca, and put in /book Tina, then you can choose a time to do your session, and they can be in person or online. And then when you enter the code at the checkout, HEART with a capital H, HEART, you'll receive a $20 discount on your session. So that's my gift to you for listening and tuning in. So I'm going to take that off the screen. Oop. Just seemed like a good time to point that out.
Absolutely.
And oh my goodness, look at that. I think we're overtime, aren't we?
I think we are.
Holy smokes. Well, that was easy. Is there a final message that you would like to share with our viewers and listeners, Bob?
I would say that learning self-love, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness comes first. And when you've done that, you will have the courage to surrender. Once you receive that self-love, you won't need it from other people. And so that's what I found in my life. My neediness fell away. And so I was able to surrender because it wasn't as scary. Because I knew that maybe no one else would be there to help me, but I was there to help my own wounded child, which is the part of me that always kept me from moving forward, because it was too afraid, because it didn't get the support it needed, or I didn't allow the support to come in that I needed when I was growing up. And it wasn't until I learned that self-love, acceptance, and forgiveness that I was able to have the courage to let go and trust in the universe.
There you have it, folks. That's the Shindao in action. This man is a true Shindaoist, living the way of the heart. I thank you, Bob, for taking the time to be on the show, to make your way over to my end of town, to be here in the studio with me. Loved every minute of our conversation. And if you too, as the listener viewer, loved every minute of this conversation, you might love some of the other conversations I've had. So I'm just going to put on the screen the fact that you can go to our YouTube channel, which is Best You Can Be, Best, the letter U, the word can, and the letter B. And there's a playlist of the 50 episodes of Living from the Heart, where you can hear these great conversations. And they're also available on our audio podcast page, which is podcast.bestyoucanbe.ca, spelled the same way with the letter U, the letter B, no E. And not only are there Living from the Heart shows, there's my husband and life partner, business partner, Neil's shows, uplifting conversations. There's great stuff there. So I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to like our Facebook page, Shindao, The Way of the Heart. And until next week, when I have another beautiful guest joining me, create a beautiful week. And ciao for now.